You are strong. You are capable. You are powerful. You're so worthy. You can do anything that you want to do. You can heal anything that you want to heal. You're on the right track. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And I love you. 1, 2, 3. My darling, I love you, 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 I love you. Love you, I 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 love you. Love you, I 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 love you. What's up, everybody? It's your favorite YouTuber, the spiritual bad bitch. If you are new here, then you are lucky, and if you're back, then welcome back. I hope you're doing good today. I hope you are happy to be continuously finding yourself on my channel. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anila Sita. Today we're going to be talking about how to heal your attachment style, specifically how to heal anxious attachment, fear of abandonment. This here is for all of my girlies who are sensitive as hell or who have ever been labeled too much. Not just my girls, but actually also my guys, because I've been seeing a lot of men coming to my channel and I love that. You are so welcome here, and I just want to say that I am not just addressing women but also men who struggle with these things, because I know the struggle can be so real. This is also for people who struggle to feel loved or who find themselves either anxiously or avoidantly attached. This is all about becoming secure in yourself, being able to experience relationships with all the joy and love and bliss that you really deserve to feel in any relationship. Now let me tell you something. This is really a thing that I didn't know how much it was running my life until I started learning about it and healing it. By the way, I'm just assuming that you who clicked on this video knows what I'm talking about, but in case you don't, we are talking about attachment styles, which comes from something called attachment theory in psychology, which is all about the ways in which we attach or interact with other people. And it starts from childhood. We're gonna get into all of that in this video. And I just want to say, please make sure you stay till the end, because we're gonna get into so many things that you're not gonna want to miss. Attachment style will dictate your whole life. It will dictate all of your relationships. And that's why I don't understand why this is not something that more people are talking about, because it shows up everywhere. It shows up in the way that your parents treat each other or love each other or don't. It shows up in the way you make friends and how you interact with those friends. It shows up in the way that you love in a romantic, intimate relationship. It shows up in every single interaction you have in your life, because the attachment style has to do with how your parents treated you when you were a kid. So to break it down in simple terms, if there's a baby crying and the mom goes and attends the child's nervous system is gonna get regulated through the mom attending to the child when the child is crying. However, if the child is crying and the mom does not attend to the child develops mistrust and a dysregulated nervous system, which then leads the child later on in life to not know how to self-regulate themselves. You might identify with what I'm saying over here, because this is obviously catered to people who have anxious attachment or even avoidant attachment. This comes from our caretakers not attending to your needs, and it created a mistrust, and now it is your responsibility to heal this, even if it's not your fault. If you don't want this shit to run your life, it is your responsibility to heal it. So we're gonna dive in straight with a question that is gonna be so important for you to ask yourself if you struggle with fear of abandonment or anxious attachment. The question is, what parts of yourself do you consider to be unlovable? What parts of yourself are you hiding and hoping they are not discovered out of a fear of being abandoned if you did show those parts? This is a really loaded question, but I'm gonna help you to answer it, because I'm gonna talk about myself now answering this question. My biggest thing that made me feel like I'm unlovable is the thing that was most suppressed in me, which is my expression and my sensitivity and emotionality. So to kind of back up a little bit and explain, when I was a kid, I would often be shamed when I would be crying or displaying any type of negative emotion. And this is actually a real problem because a child, when it is crying, is actually self-soothing. It is soothing itself, it is regulating itself, especially if mom wasn't there in the earlier years, or wasn't as present as she should have been, or dad wasn't there, wasn't as present as he should have been. What happens is the child learns to cope on its own. My way of coping on my own was crying, but I had to do it in secret because I would be shamed if I did show that part of me. I would often be labeled crazy or too much or too sensitive or too emotional, and that just led to this wound further expanding and getting stronger. And so because I wasn't even able to regulate myself by letting myself cry, it added even more to a dysregulated nervous system. We are gonna get, by the way, in this video, into little tips I'm gonna give you for regulating your nervous system. So just wait for that. So this pattern caused me not only to suppress emotions in front of other people and therefore being inauthentic and therefore not loving myself because I felt like those parts of me were not lovable, my emotions, my sensitivity. So I would hide them from people because I really did not want to be shamed or abandoned. Now, the fear of abandonment thing, I just want to say that fear of abandonment, if you struggle with it, it doesn't necessarily mean that a parent completely abandoned you. Sometimes it's also neglect. Sometimes it's also emotional abandonment. So maybe the parent was physically there, but the parent wasn't attending to your emotional needs. That's emotional abandonment, and also leads you to then have this fear of abandonment because that part of you never was made to feel like it's lovable, and it was never loved. So of course, any interaction you then have with people, you're gonna suppress that. And that's exactly where the healing comes in, is having an awareness that this is what's going on, that you are suppressing this part of yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you have the same wound as me. Maybe the answer to the question I asked in the beginning of what parts of yourself do you deem unlovable, it will be something different. Maybe it's not your sensitivity, maybe it's something different, but I'm just sharing with you what it is for me, and that was a monumental realization because I realized that was the key. It was learning to accept the thing that I was conditioned to suppress and not like about myself. And so returning to that wholeness within yourself and that security within yourself, that self-love, is all about integrating the parts that others deemed unlovable and bringing them back in and deciding they are lovable and you are worthy of being loved despite showing those parts that you may consider to be flaws. So what I then did after realizing that that was the biggest thing I was suppressing was I started to embrace it. I started to show up in the world with my big emotions. Even though I was scared and I thought that would lead me to be abandoned, I realized the more I showed up, showing this part of myself that I thought was unlovable, and the more I would receive acceptance and love from people in my life who really do love me authentically, it started to heal. So you see, it's really about becoming aware of what the thing is that is making you think, oh, if I show this, I'm gonna be abandoned. And then once that comes to your attention, it's about actively forcing yourself to show the part that you feel is most unlovable. And just a little disclaimer, this may potentially lead to people abandoning you. And that does not mean that you are unlovable or that you deserve to be abandoned. It's actually just really triggering that wound so much until you learn the lesson that you can love yourself and stand on your own, even if somebody doesn't accept your truth or somebody abandons you after speaking your truth. Another thing I want to say about the environment you grow up in and how this contributes so much to this anxious attachment and this fear of abandonment. I grew up in a family where whenever something bad happened, it was just kind of swept under the rug and pretending like it never happened and it doesn't exist. And so this is a pattern of emotional unavailability. And if you as a child are witnessing emotional unavailability around you, which means not talking about emotions, which is so important for the development of a child, that leads you to then become emotionally unavailable with yourself, because you begin to lose this connection and this access to your inner emotions. And the dysregulated nervous system adds on to all of that and further makes you separate from the real you and your true emotions. So now let's get to the healing journey of how this started healing for me. And it's quite painful, actually, once I became aware that I had this. And it's so weird, right? Because you may only have recently figured out that you have this. You may still not even know that you fully have this. I don't know what types of souls are going to be brought to this video, but I just want to say that it is the best thing you could do for yourself to confront this, because when you are at peace with yourself and you have utter, pure, complete self-love for the being, the magical being that you are, then suddenly nothing on the outside can affect you. Nobody can abandon you unless you abandon yourself. And that's all part of this journey of self-love. We're gonna get into that. How this healed for me was, I was dating this guy in Bali. I mentioned him in a video I did recently that's called The Story of How I Manifested My Mans. And that's the story of my now partner, my now boyfriend. But before I met him, I met this guy in Bali who was incredibly avoidant. Now, if you are anxiously attached, you're gonna attract your perfect magnet, which is avoidantly attached often. And if you're avoidantly attached, you're gonna attract your perfect magnet, anxiously attached. I'm not gonna go into the specifics of that in this video, just some, but if you really want to learn about all that, I would recommend attachment books, which we'll also get into in this video. Anyways, I remember I was dating this guy and he was very non-confrontational, just like mirroring what had been going on in my family. Non-confrontation, emotional unavailability. So he was mirroring this back to me, and I started noticing, oh wow, he doesn't want to talk about things if there's conflict, which to me would further lead me to have this anxious attachment and then fear that I would be abandoned, because really what an anxiously attached person wants is they desperately crave closeness and reassurance. The avoidant person, though, pulls away when the anxious person is needing this reassurance. And so it creates this dance, because then at some point the anxious person pulls away and then the avoidant person comes, and it's just this constant dance of back and forth. And I remember towards the end of our connection with this guy in Bali, I had to speak my truth. And like I just said in the beginning, that was so hard for me to authentically express my emotions and what I really think, especially with the emotional unavailability in my family. Anytime I tried to voice things, I would be labeled crazy and I would be conditioned to not trust myself. But in this relationship, it's almost like this part of me was awakening, this power of, wait a damn minute, I have an issue with this and I notice this behavior and I don't like it and it's not making me feel good, so it is my responsibility to speak up for myself and say that I don't like this. So I'm telling him how I feel on this one night, and my face is all fucking red and my whole body is like hot because it's so uncomfortable to speak your truth when you have anxious attachment, if you guys know. And especially where the nervous system was so dysregulated, of course, I didn't have safety in my body yet. I didn't know how to do that feeling safe. What ended up happening is I got abandoned. The relationship ended after I spoke my truth. And when I tell you, it was the greatest pain, but also the most liberating pain I ever went through. Because I remember calling my brother and being like, I told him how I felt. I talked about the things that bothered me, and he basically said it was too much for him and he didn't want to be in a connection anymore. And that made me feel so rejected and abandoned. It triggered that core fucking wound that was inside of me. And my brother said, you know what? Somebody who's really for you is not going to abandon you when you speak your truth. And what's going to happen is the man who is for you, you're basically going to show up with your sensitivity and your emotions, and you're going to be crying. And this man is actually going to hold you through that. And he's going to stay with you through that. And that is what is going to heal this wound. But this guy leaving was just showing you that that was not somebody who matched who you are. That was not somebody who was for your authentic self. And you know what? It was the truth, but it was a hard pill to swallow, because I remember I was crying every single day after that relationship ended. And it wasn't even about him. I was crying out the pain of feeling alone, the pain of feeling abandoned, because that is the core wound that just wanted to be felt. And for you guys who have watched my videos for a while, you know I talk about you have to feel it to heal it. And allowing your emotions to just come through, no matter how strong they are, it heals you, because the body remembers everything that happened to you. And when you can cry it out in a somatic way, meaning only in the body and not in the mind, damn, that's the most incredible experience. If you have fear of abandonment or anxious attachment, you are gonna be attracting people who will trigger that fucking wound until you heal it, and then you draw in somebody who is actually for you. And that's painful, I know, but sometimes that's the only way you learn. You confront this fear of abandonment by being abandoned. And I'm not saying it has to be as extreme for you as it was for me, because I now know of a lot more tools of how to regulate my nervous system and how to heal myself that I didn't back then. Crying was my only way to really process, which is still fine, but there are easier ways. There's more supporting ways to let go of these emotions. We're gonna get into that towards the end. And it's not to say, by the way, that anxious avoidant relationships can't work out, because I've noticed in my current relationship, there are sometimes dynamics where I'll be anxious, he'll be avoidant, or I'll be avoidant, he'll be anxious. Like, it kind of flips, but we're really secure most of the time. It's only sometimes that the dynamic plays out, and there's such honesty and authenticity and awareness in the both of us in my relationship that that's how the healing happens. But if there's no awareness and you can't be honest and talk to each other about these things, then it can't heal either. You know what I mean? And now, what I was saying earlier about self-regulation, let's fucking get into this nervous system talk. If you are anxiously or avoidantly attached, you 100% have a dysregulated nervous system, which means that you need to do somatic work in order to heal this. I'm teaching you a lot of the intellectual stuff in this video, which is great to understand yourself and to heal, but it's actually the body that needs to release this dysregulation and the emotions that are trapped in order for it to be regulated again. So if you feel the need to cry ever, you allow it from this point. Now that you've seen this video, if you feel the need to fucking cry, I don't care what happened, what's going on in your life, if it's a tiny reason, if it's not that big of a deal, you let yourself experience all the emotions that come up. That is the biggest way I was able to heal this, by sitting with myself and really imagining that it's not just me, it's actually me and my inner child. It's my baby me. And by seeing it like this, you can envision that you are being the parent to your inner child that your inner child would have needed. And that is what is going to heal and transform this. Now, I know that for some people this is easier said than done. Some people are going to be thinking to themselves, how is me just crying and letting myself feel my emotions going to change anything? It's just going to make me feel like shit. I'm always going to be crying. I'm always going to be feeling like shit. And the truth is, no, you won't. The reason why you're always feeling like shit is because you're not allowing yourself to feel like shit. The moment you allow yourself to feel like shit, really processing those emotions, really letting them come out. I let myself cry whenever now, and I keep crying until I can't anymore. And it's really been helping me to feel so much better in my body. It's okay. You're allowed to feel these emotions. You are now an adult. You're not the helpless child you may have been in the past. Nothing bad is gonna happen by you feeling them. And if somebody ever shames you for that, which again was my story, that is your pivotal point to choose yourself, to choose to love and accept yourself. I would really like to mention right now something that I am launching with these couple of videos I'm putting out at the minute, which is a self-love meditation. Y'all, I channeled this meditation that will connect you back to your inner child. I really channeled it from a place of wanting to help people reconnect with themselves. Like I keep saying, the antidote to healing this is self-love. And I find the easiest way to love yourself is reconnecting with your inner child, loving that inner child, and letting this inner child be fully embodied. I used to feel like my inner child was kind of not in my body anymore. I kind of shut her out. I abandoned her because she was abandoned and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I abandoned her. And now this healing journey has reconnected me with her, where she's not here anymore, but she's here. She's fucking here. She's everywhere here. If you guys would like to try this meditation, it is gonna change your fucking life. I know it will. Just really like want your heart space to feel like it's exploding from love. That was really my intention with this meditation. So if you'd like to try it, then click the link in the description box. It's gonna be there. There will be a discount for these first 2 weeks of the launch, so grab it before the price goes back up to normal. But let's get back to this video. Now I would like to give you guys an active tip for nervous system regulation that I recently learned in my training of becoming a breathwork facilitator. This is what really was the icing on the cake of my healing journey. It has absolutely fucking transformed my entire relationship with myself. And I now finally feel safe in my body. And I want to teach you a little hack for nervous system regulation if you ever find yourself feeling very anxious. So this point right here, if you go like this, it's called like a karate chop. This activates the vagus nerve, which is the nerve in your body responsible for relaxation. It can really help to regulate your nervous system. So if you ever are finding yourself anxious, especially around abandonment, you just go like this and you say to yourself, even though I feel anxious and afraid and like I'm gonna be abandoned, I love myself. Even though I'm scared, I choose to love myself. Even though I'm afraid, I trust myself. I trust the universe. Even though I feel like this, that's basically the structure of the affirmation. This is a great tool for nervous system regulation. Another one is breathing into your belly. I like to put hands right here because it really allows me to feel the expansion of my breath. And then you breathe into your stomach, feeling this whole area here on the side expands. I like to go in the nose, out the mouth. That one always seems to calm me down so much, especially because I'm quite visual. The feeling of holding something and feeling it expand and get smaller is incredibly healing. So try those things out if ever you are needing to soothe yourself or you're feeling anxious. I would be really curious to see if this works for you. But also know that if your trauma is very deep rooted, you may need to get support. And that's absolutely fine. I needed to get support. I've been in therapy for like a year talking about this stuff. I went and did my breathwork training, which through the whole thing I was supported. And I don't think I could have done it without support. So please just know, you don't have to go through this shit on your own. You're allowed to ask for support. Now, something else I want to say about healing this fear of abandonment and anxious attachment. What really, really helps is radical, authentic self-expression. So whenever you are finding yourself bothered about something, even if you can't rationalize it, you know, sometimes I'll get triggered at something my partner says, and then I'll get mad and I'll suppress that because I've been conditioned, right, to suppress these negative emotions. And I have to actively push against that and be like, nope, now is your time to speak up. Now is your time to say what you felt. So even though it's scary and I fear abandonment, I will push against that and just say to myself, look, if this person abandons you for speaking your authentic truth, they are not meant to be in your life. And that was always my green light, I guess, to be authentic and express myself. So you need to learn to be honest and radical in your self-expression. The more honest, the better. Say what you fucking think. And you'd be surprised how many people turn around and actually meet you with love and kindness, because that's what happened with my current relationship. I started noticing that every time I would express, I'd have immense fear in the beginning. And even if he didn't fully understand when I would tell him, because everybody has their own triggers and you expressing yourself could bring uncomfortable stuff up in other people. Allow them to then authentically express themselves. Give them time if they need that. But I've noticed after that time was given, he would come back around and he would understand me and our connection would get even stronger. So it's shown me that when we are leading with this fear of abandonment, we're living in ego and fear, and we're not in love. We should always be choosing love. There's a saying which is that there's anyways only two paths on this earth, the path of fear or the path of love, but you can't have both. And I always think about that. And if I am leading with love or fear, and I think when we suppress ourselves, we don't say what we think. We're leading with fear. Whereas when we express ourselves, we're leading with trust and with love. Because if somebody loves you and you tell them, you know, I feel sad or kind of feel angry, if they love you, they're gonna wanna understand you. They're not gonna abandon you, you know? So you are so worthy of speaking up, saying what you think, expressing yourself. Something else I wanna speak on is, I know women who say, okay, but even after I authentically express myself, he calls me crazy. He doesn't listen to me. He says that's not true. Those experiences are all happening for you to wake up to your power. Always, always, always advocating for yourself and being like, I don't care if you disagree with what I feel. I'm expressing myself right now. And what I need is to feel heard and seen. And if somebody really can't understand that after you've expressed that, they may not be the one for you. They may not be the person that is really worth this journey of growing together with somebody. Why would you want to be with somebody who doesn't understand your emotional needs? It's much better to be with someone who actually wants to understand you. And again, triggers will happen in all relationships. Like, that's just part of relationships, but it's always how you handle that conflict. And again, whether it's leading in fear or love, that's a great one to ask yourself. Being called crazy is another thing that I think when you've been called that a lot in your life, you could start to believe it's true, but that's part of you reclaiming your power and realizing, I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm fucking highly intuitive. And these people want to keep going on with their avoidant tendencies, their non-confrontational, emotionally unavailable tendencies. And I am not going to suppress my truth, my voice, my thoughts, my insights, my gut instinct, alright? Because a lot of us girlies with anxious attachment, let me give you your little superpower, you are tuned in. Even if right now you are dysregulated or you've struggled with healing this, I promise you, you came here to this planet to wake up to your power and realize what actually lies behind this wound. Because a lot of women with anxious attachment are super powerful psychics. They are so in touch with their gut once they heal this shit. And another superpower, because this is what my healer made me realize. She asked me once, what's the emotion you most experienced in your childhood? And I thought about it and I realized it was disempowerment. So I told her, disempowerment. And then she told me, can you see now how through your disempowerment, you are being taught to empower yourself? Hence the reason why I have this job, empowering other people. Do you see the fucking magic of that? I need you to understand that you are not a victim. Your soul signed up for this. And even though it's painful, I know you fucking got this. The last thing before this video ends is I wanted to share 3 books with you that have completely transformed my mindset. So the books that really helped me is, the first one is Women Who Love Too Much. absolute favorite read, so profound, was literally healing and crying my eyes out as I was reading it because of how much I could identify with the girls' stories in there. It's a therapist who interviews a different woman in every chapter, and wow, the insights from that book are profound. Highly would recommend that if you struggle with disorganized attachment. Next one is Healing Your Lost Inner Child. Incredible. Incredible. Has so many journal prompts inside that will really allow you to look at your wounds and transmute them and see what it came here to teach you, and also understand yourself better. And the last one, this is a book on attachment, is called Anxious Attachment, I believe, by Jessica Baum or something. I'll put it up here. Very triggering read, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even think I finished this book, but I remember having the biggest realizations on anxious attachment, avoidant attachment while I was reading this book. And it just really led me to realize that none of this shit's personal, and that whenever we think somebody's doing something to us or being mean to us or abandoning us or, you know, suppressing us, they are just playing their divine role in triggering whatever needs to be triggered inside of you so that you can heal. And you can either go the route of the victim or the victor. And I feel like the victim goes, this sucks. Why do I get dealt such a shit hand in life? Why do I have all these partners who don't treat me well? Whatever it may be. The victor mindset is, oh, I guess I experienced this so that I could wake up to my goddamn power. I guess I experienced this so that I can help other women heal. I guess I experienced this so that I could meet myself more deeply. Do you see where I'm going with this? A lot of people stay at the surface in their life. That's not me, bitch. And I know that the people on this channel, probably not you guys either. So that's all I have to say for this video today. I really hope that this video helped you, that it transformed you, that it brought you some solace, some guidance, knowledge. And just to say again, my meditation is gonna be on discount for the next 2 weeks within this launch. I really would love for you to check out the self-love meditation. It really is all about reconnecting to your inner child and feeling like it's you and your inner child versus the world. So I know it's gonna make you feel very powerful. Thank you for staying till the end of this video. I am sending you so much love, light, healing, abundance, blessings, and just good things.